Ryan Goswami Maharaj, Śrīla Gurudev ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shmad Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shmad Śrīla Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shmad Śrīla Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shmad Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Śrīla Gokṣaras Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopāla-bālaṁ Shri Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Śrī Ramanandari Shri Vareśād vṛṇe ki jai. Nam Acharya Shri āvirāstāṁ ki jai. Prem se ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta vṛṇe ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Kartik Vṛtti ki jai. Urja Vṛtti ki jai. Urjeshwari Shri Vrishabhanu Nandini Shrimati Radha Thakurani ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri. Sorry. I got ready in a rush today and I just noticed that my tilak, I didn't even make it a point at the end. I just got my... Anyways, okay, let me share my screen. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapara-kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vidangscha Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanati Namine Shri Krishna Lila Katane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunaishta Yuktam Varam Varanyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tam Shirasa Namami. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Shri Keshava Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Vamaniti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Acharya Singharupine Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Iti Namine. Atimartya Charitraya Swashritanang Chapalane Jiva Dukhe Sadartaya Shinama Premadayine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitai Kripabdhaye Krishna sambandhave jnana dayane prabhave namaha. Madhuyojla premadhya Śrī Rūpanuga bhaktida Śrī Gaura karuna shakti vigrahaya namostute. Namaste Gauravani Śrī Murtaye Dīnatarine Rūpanuga Virudapa Siddhanta Dvantaharine. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Shakshar Vairagyamurtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namane Gaura Shakti Sarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. Gauravirbhava Bhumistang Nirdeshta Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nityananda Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayine Kalo Kalmasha Nashaya Janava Pataye Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jayatang Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohano. Devyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumada Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishta Lavi Sevamano Smarami. Shriman Rasarasarambhi Vangshivata Tatastita Karshan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinata Shri Estuna. Anga Shama Lima Chata Birhabito Mandi Kritendi Varam Jadyam Jagudorochisham Vidadatam Patambarasya Shriya. Vrindaranya Vilasinam Hridilasad Damabhiramodaram Radhaskanda Niveshito Jvalabhujam Dhyayema Damodaram. Vrindayai Tulsidevai Priyayai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh, and forgive me, anybody, if I'm singing these too fast today. I think I need to starting a little bit earlier, because yesterday, by the time we finished, like as soon as we finished, I went for prasad and everything was completely finished. You know, there was no prasad left over, and anyways, not such a big deal. But Yeah, I don't want to, and I have somebody coming over this morning to meet with me right after this program. Anyways, I just need to and today's reading is a bit long. It's 7,000 words. So tomorrow's reading actually is only 4,000 words. I can start at the same time tomorrow, but maybe the day after tomorrow I might have to start earlier. Davanala sama sangsara dahane Dagda jiva kula yudhara karane Karuna varida kripa varidani bandi guna sindhu gurur charana kamala Nritya gita vadya Shri Hari kirtane Rahe namagana mahamata mane Romanchakam pashu hoya gora preme Vandishe guru charana kamala Sadarata jini vigraha sevane Shringaradi ar mandira marjane Karena niryukta anugata jane Vandishe gurur charana kamala Charvachushaleya peyara samay Prasadana krishnirati sadhoy Bhaktaya shvadane nijatriptaroy Vandishe gurur charana kamala Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam namarupa gune Ananta madhurya lila ashvadane Lubda chitta jini hana pratikshane Vandishe gurur charana kamala Vraja juva danda rati samvardhane Yukti kare sakhi gane vrindavane Ati dakshata hai priyatama gane Vandishe gurur charana kamala Sarva shastre gai Shri Hari Swarupa Bhakta gana bhave she anurupa Kintu jini prabhu priyatama rupa Vandishe gurur charana kamala Jahara prasade Krishna kripa pai Jara prasade anyagati nai Trisandhya kirtirastava dhyane bhai Vandishe guru charana kamala Guru deva-āśṭaka yati jatna kori Brahma muhurte pore ucha kori Vrindavana nath Shakshat Shri Hari Seva pai Vastu siddhi kale Vandishe guru charana kamala Vandishe guru charana kamala Guru deva jaya Guru deva Guru deva jaya Guru deva jaya Guru deva Guru deva Guru deva jaya Guru deva Krishna hoite chaturmukha Hoy Krishna sevamukha Brahma hoite naradera mati Narada hoite vyasa Matva kohe vyasa dasa Puna pragya Parmana bhagati Hari Andre Hari Madhava Vangshe Akshavya Paramahamse Shishya Boli Angikara Kare Akshavya Shishya Jaya তীর্থনামে পরিচয় তার দাসে জ্ঞান সিন্ধু তরে তাহা হইতে দয়ানিধি তার দাস বিদ্যানিধি রাজেন্দ্র হইল তাহা হইতে তাহার কিঙ্কর জয় ধর্ম নামে পরিচয় পরম্পরা জন ভালো মতে জয় ধর্ম দাসে খ্যাতি শ্রী পুরুষোত্তম জাতি তা হইতে ব্রাহ্মণ্য তীর্থ সূরি ব্যাস তীর্থ তার দাস লক্ষ্মীপতি ব্যাস দাস তাহা হইতে মারবেন্দ্র পুরী বর শিষ্য বর শ্রী ঈশ্বর নিত্যানন্দ শ্রী অদ্বৈত বিভো ঈশ্বর পুরীকে ধন্য করিলেন শ্রী চৈতন্য জগর গুরু গৌর মহাপ্রভু শ্রী চৈতন্য রাধা কৃষ্ণ হে অন্য রূপানুগ জনের জীবন विश्वाम्बर प्रियंकर श्री स्वरूप दामोदर श्री गोस्वामी रूप सनातन रूप प्रिय महाजन जीव रघुनाथ तार प्रिय कवि कृष्णदास प्रिय वर नरोत्तम सेवा पर जार पर विश्वनाथ आशा विश्वनाथ भक्त सत बलदेव जगन्नाथ तार प्रिय श्री भक्ति विनोद महाभागवत वर श्री गौर किशोर वर हरि भजन ते चार मोर शिव श्रवण विवर सदा सेवा सेवा पर ताहार दयित दास नाम प्रभु पर अंतरंग श्री स्वरूप रूपनुग श्री केशव भक्ति प्रज्ञान गौड़िया वेदांत वेद माया वद तमोहंत कौरवाणी प्रचर धाम प्रचारिल गौरवाणी भक्ति वेदांत पुराइल प्रभु पादेर काम केशव प्रिय महाजन वामन नारायण हान कौरवाणी तादे प्राण धान हे सब हरिजन गौरांगेर निज जान तादेरा उचिष्टे मोर काम गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा परंपरा गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा परंपरा गुरु परंपरा वृंदावन वासी जत वैष्णवेर गान प्रथमे वंदना करी सबार चरण नीलाचलवासी जत महाप्रभुर गान भूमिते परिया बंदो सभार चरण नवद्वीपवासी जत महाप्रभुर भक्त सभार चरण बंदो होयानुरक्त महाप्रभुर भक्त जत गौर देशे स्थिते सभार चरण बंदो करिया प्रणाति যে দেশে বৈশে গৌরাঙ্গের গান ঊর্ধ্ব বাহু করি বন্দন সভার চরণ হইয়াছে না হইবে না প্রভুর যত দাস সভার চরণ বন্দন দন্তে করি ঘাস ব্রহ্মাণ্ড তারিতে শক্তি ধরে জানে জানে এবেরা পুরাণে গুণ গায় যে বসুনে মহাপ্রভুর গান সব পতিত পাবন তাই লোভি মুই পাপি লইনু শরণ বন্দনা করিতে মুই কত শক্তি ধরি তম বুদ্ধি দোষে মুই দম্ভ মাত্র করি তথাপি মুখের ভাগ্য মনের উল্লাস দোষক স্বামী মধমে করণে যদাস সর্ববংশ সিদ্ধি হয় জমবন্ধ ছুটে জগতে দুর্লভ হইয়া প্রেম ধন লুটে মনের অবসান পূর্ণ আচিরাতে হইয়া দেবকী নন্দন দাস এলো বেকয় জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর শ্রী কৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য প্রভু নিত্যানন্দ শ্রী অদ্বৈত গদাধর শিবাসাদি ও গৌর ভক্ত বৃন্দ শ্রী কৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য প্রভু জীবে দয়া করি স্বপার্শ্বর স্বীয় ধাম সহায়বতারি অত্যন্ত দুর্লভ প্রেম করিবারে দান শিখায় শরণাগতি ভক্তের প্রাণ ধন্যাত্মা নিবেদন গোপ্তৃতে বরান অবশ্য রাখিবে কৃষ্ণ বিশ্বাস পালন ও ভক্তি অনুকূল মাত্র কার্যের স্বীকার ভক্তি প্রতিকূল ভাব বর্জনাঙ্গীকার Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Can you all hear me now? The power went out, and so I just switched over. Okay. Let me just check. Okay. Asharangasha Sharangasha Bhak. Let me just start over. Adanyayatma Nivedana Goptritve Varana Avashya Rakhibe Krishna vishvasapalana bhakti anukula matra karyera shikara bhakti pratikula bhava vajanangikara sharanga sharanagati hoibe jahara tahara prarthana shune Śrī Nanda Kumara Rupa sanatana pare dante trina kori pakati vinora pare dopada dhari kandiya kandiya bole ayamito yadhama shikaye sharanagate kara he utama jaya sapashara jaya kara hare sapashara jaya kara hare jaya sapashara kara hare sapashara jaya kara hare. Okay, Haribol, thanks for being patient. The power just came back and I'm back on the Wi-Fi. Hey, they're singing this Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam in the temple right now. Krishna kirtana gana nartana paro premamritam bhunidhi dhira dhira jana priya priya karo nirmatsaro pujito Shri Chaitanya kripa bharo bhuvi bhuvo bharavahantarako vande rupa sanatana raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopāla-ko Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Namataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopāla-ko Shri Gauranga Gunarnuvarnana Vidho Śraddha Samritanvito Papa Tapa Nikrintano Tanupritam Govinda Ganamritai Ayanandam Buddhivardhanaika Nipuno Kaivalya Nistarako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopāla-ko Taktva Turnama Shesha Mandalapati Shrenim Sadā Tucchavat Bhutva Dina Ganeshako Karunaya Gopena Kantashrito गोपीभावरसामृताब्धिलहरे कलोलमग्नो मोहो वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको कुजाद्कोकिलहंससारसगना कीर्णे मयूरकुले नानारत्ननिबद्धमूलविटप श्रीयुक्तवृन्दावने राधा कृष्णमहर्निशं प्रभजतो जीवार्तदोयो मुदा वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको संख्यापूर्वकनामगान नातिभिः कालावसानि कृतो निद्राहारविहारकादिविजतो चात्यन्तदीनो क्षयो राधा कृष्ण गुण स्मृतिर्मधुरिमा नन्देन समोहितो वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको राधा कुण्डतटे कलिन्दतनया तीरे च वंशीवटे प्रेमोन्मादवशारशेषदशया ग्रस्तो प्रमत्तो सदा अगायन्तो च कदा हरिर्गुणवरां भावभिभूतो मुदा वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको हे राधे व्रज देवी के चललिते हे नंद सुनो कुता श्री गोवर्धन कल्पपादपताले कालिन्दीवाने कुता गोशान्ताविति सर्वतो व्रजपुरे खेदार्महाविवलो वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुयुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको जय रूप सनातन जय रूप रघुनाथ श्रीजीवगोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ जय रूप सनातन जय रूप रघुनाथ जय श्रीजीवगोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ जय षड्गोस्वामी 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 जय षड्गोस्वामी जय षड्गोस्वामी 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 जय षड्गोस्वामी दावने विहार तोइह केलि कुञ्जे माता दीप प्रवर कौतुक विभ्रमेण सन्दर्शय सयुवयो वदनारविन्द त्वां त्वां विदेहि मयि देवि कृपां प्रसीद देवी काकुभर कर्गदयादवाचा याचे निपत्यभुवि दण्डवरुर्वतार्ति अस्य प्रसादमभुदस्य जनस्य कृत्वा गान्धर्विकेन जगने गणनां विदेहि श्यामे रमण सुन्दरता वरिष्ठ सौन्दर्य मोहित समस्त जगज्जनस्य श्यामस्य वामभुजबततनं कदाह त्वमिन्दिरा विरलरूपभरां भजामि त्वं प्रच्छदेन मुदिरा च विना पिदाय मञ्जीरमुक्तचरणां च विधाय देवी कुञ्जे व्रजेन्द्रतनयेन विराजमाने नक्तं कदा प्रमुदितमभिसारयिष्ये कुञ्जे प्रसूनकुलकल्पितकेलितल्पे संविष्टयोर्मधुरनार्मविलासभाजो लोकत्रयाभरणयोश्चरणाम्बुजानि संवाहयिष्यति कदा युवयोर्जनोऽयं तत्कुन्दरोधसि विलासपरिश्रमेण स्वेदाम्बुजुम्बिवदनाम्बुरुहश्रियोऽवम् वृन्दावनेश्वरि कदा तरुमूलभाजो संविजयामि चमरीचयचामरेण लीनां निकुञ्जकुहरे भवतीं मुकुन्दे चित्रैव सुचितवती रुचिराक्षिणाहम् भुग्नां भ्रुवां न रचयेति मृषां त्वाम् अग्रे व्रजेन्द्र तनया सकदानुनेशे वाग्युतकेलिकुतुके व्रजराजसूनो जित्वा मदामधिकदर्पविकासि जल्पाम् फूलाविरालविरनाल्पमुदीर्यमाना स्तोत्रं कदानुभवतीमवलोकयिष्ये या कोऽपि शुष्टुवृषभानुकुमारिकार्या सम्प्रार्थनाष्टकमिदं पठति प्रपाना सा प्रेयसा सह समेतधृता प्रमोरा तत्र प्रसारलहरे मुररि करोति देवीं जय राधे जय राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे जय वृषभानुनन्दिनी राधे राधे वृषभानुनन्दिनी राधे राधे राधा मुकुन्द परसम्भव कर्मबिन्दु निर्माञ्चनोपकरणे कृतदेहलक्ष्यम् उत्तुङ्गसौहृदविशेषवशात् प्रगल्भा देवीं गुणसुललितां ललितां नमामि राकासुधाकिरण मण्डलकान्तिदाण्डी वक्त्रश्रियां चकितचारुचमूरुनेत्राम् राधा प्रसाधनविधानकलाप्रसेदां देवीं गुणसुललितां ललितां नमामि अलासोलसर्भुजग शत्रुपतात्र चित्रा पटां शुकाभरण काञ्चुलिकाञ्चिताङ्गीं गौरोचनारुचिविघारन गौरिमानां देवीं गुणसुललितां ललितां नमामि अधूर्ते व्रजेन्द्र तनये तनुषुष्टुवाम्यां मा दक्षिणा भवकलाङ्किनी लाघवाय राधे गिरां शृणुहितामिति शिक्षयान्ते देवीं गुणसुललितां ललितां नमामि राधामभिव्रजपते कृतम् आत्मजेन कूटामनागपि विलोक्य विलोहिताक्षीं वाघाङ्घ्रिभिश्चमचिरेण विलाजयन्तीं देवीं गुणसुललितां ललितां नमामि vatsalya vrindavasatiṁ pashupāla-rāgyā sakhyanushikshana kalasu gurum sakhinam radha-bala-varaja jivita-nirvishesham devim gunaisu lalitam lalitam namami yam kamapi vrajakule vrishabhanujaya preksha swapaksha parabhimanurudyamanam sadastad ishta ghatanena kritartayantim devim gunaisu lalitam lalitam namami radha vrajendra sutta sangamarangaccharyam varyam vinishchitavatim akhilotsavebhya tam gokula priya sakhi nikuramba mukhyam devim gunaisu lalitam lalitam namami nandana-muni lalita guna lalitani padyani patati nirmala drishtirashto pritya vikarshati janani javrindamathe tam kirtida patikulojvala kalpavalli devim gunaisu lalitam lalitam namami devim gunaisu lalitam lalitam namami jaya lalita devi jaya lalita devi lalita devi jaya lalita devi jaya lalita devi jaya lalita devi lalita devi jaya lalita devi Abhraturanta-kasya patane vipatiharini prekshayati papinopi papasindutarini niramaduribhirabhya sheshacheta-bandhini mam punatu sarvadara-vindabandhunandini hari vari dharayapi manditoru kandava pundarika mandalodya dandajali dandava snanakama pamarogra papa samparandhini mam punatu sarvadara vindabandhunandini shikhara vimrishcha jantu durvipakamarvini nandanandanantaranga bhakti puravardhini tīrasangam-āvirāṣī mangalanubandhini mam punatu sarvadara vindabandhunandini dvipachakravala jushta sapta sindhu bhedini Śrī Mukunda nirmatoru devya keli vedini kanti kandili birendra nila vrinda nindini mam punatu sarvadara vindabandhunandini maturena mandalena charuna bhimandita premanata vaishnavabhva vardhanaya pandita urmidor vilasa parmanava parabandhini mam punatu sarvadara vindabandhunandini ramya tira rampamana gokadamba bhushita devya gandha bhakadamba pushparajirushita nanda suna bhakta sanga sangamabhinandini mam punatu sarvadara vindabandhunandini Pula-paksha malikaksha hamsalaksha pujita bhakti-vidda deva siddha kenarali pujita tira gandha vaha gandha janma bandharandhini mam punatu sarvadara vindabandhunandini vilasa varipura bhurvuvasva apini kirtitapi durmudoru papamarmatapini balavendra nandana garanga bhanga balavendra nandana garaga bhanga gandhini mam punatu sarvadara vinda bandhu nandini tushta buddhirashtakena nirmalormi cheshtitam tvamanena bhanuputri sarvadeva veshtitam yastaviti vardayassa sarva papa mochane bhakti puramasya devi pundare kalochane mam punatu sarvadara vinda bandhu nandini mam punatu sarvadara vinda bandhu nandini jaya mune jaya jaya mune jaya mune jaya jaya mune jaya vishaka devi jaya vishaka devi vishaka devi jaya vishaka devi Nijapati bhujadanda chatra bhavam prapadya pratihata madadrishto danda devendra karva atula pratula shaila shreni bhopam priyamene janikatani vasam tehi govardhanatam pramadhamadana lila Kandare kandare te rachayati navayonor dandamasmin amanda iti kila kalanarta lagna kastatayor mene janikatani vasam dehi govardhanatam anupamamani vedi ratna singhasanorvi ruhajaradharasano Droni Sangeshuranga Sahabala Sakhi Bisa Khelayan Sapriyamene Janikatani Vasam Dehi Govardhanatam Rasaniti Navayunor Shakshinim Dana Kele Yuti Parimala Vidham Shama Vedim Prakashya Rasika Varakulana Modamasvalaya Mene Janikatani Vasam Dehi Govardhanatam Haridaitam Apurvam Radhika Kundamatma Priya Sakamiha Kante Narmana Linga Gupta Navayuva Yuga Kelas Tatra Pashyan Rahome Nejane Katani Vasam Dehi Govardhanatam Stala Jala Tala Shashpar Bhuru Hachchaya Yacha Prati Paramanukalam Hanta Sangvardayanga Trijagati Nijagotra Sarthakyam Khyapayame Nijanikatani Vasam Dehi Govardhanatam Surapati Krita Dirga Drohata Goshtaraksham Tavanavagriha Rupa Santare Kurvataiva Agabakari Punachar Dattamanandrutame Nijanikatani Vasam Dehi Govardhanatam Giri Nripa Haridasa Shrinivareti Nama Mritamidam Uditam Shri Radhika Vaktra Chandra Vrajanavati Lapatve Klipta Vedai Sputame Nijanikatani Vasam Dehi Govardhanatam Nija Jana Yuttaradha Krishna Maitri Rasakta Vrajanara Pashupakshi Vrata Sokaikadata Aganita Karunatva Mamuri Krita Tantam Nijanikatani Vasam Dehi Govardhanatam परिकरुणेन श्री सच्चिदानन्देन त्वयिकपटिशतोऽपि त्वत्प्रियेणार्पितोऽस्मि इति खलु मम योग्यतां तामग्रेण निजनिकटनिवासं देहि गोवर्धनाथ रसदक्षकमस्य शीलगोवर्धनस्य क्षितिधरकुलभर्तुर्यप्रयत्नादधीते ससपदि सुकरेऽस्मिन् अवसमासादशक्षुवरयुगलसेवा रत्नमाप्नोति पूर्णं निजनिकटनिवासं देहि गोवर्धनाथ निजनिकटनिवासं देहि गोवर्धनाथं जय गिरिराजा जय गोवर्धन गिरिराजा जय गोवर्धन वृन्दावन गोवर्धन जय वृन्दावन जय राधा कुंद जय श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद जय श्याम कुंद कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे मनमानसमधुकरमर्पय निज परपङ्कजमकरन्दे कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे यद्यपि समाधिषु विधिरपि पश्यति न तव न खग्रमरीचिम् इदमिच्छामि निश्चम तवाच्युत तरपि कृपाद्भुतवीचिम् कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे भक्तिरुदाञ्चति यद्यपि माधव न त्वयि मम तिलमात्रे परमेश्वर तरपि तवाधिक दुर्गत घटना विधात्री कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे अयमविलोलत यद सनातन कालितर्भुतरसभारम् अनिवसतु नित्यमेहामृतनेन्दिनि विन्दन मधुरिम सारं कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे कृष्ण देव भगवन्तं वन्दे जय राधे जय जय माधव दायिते गोकुल तरुणी मंडल महिते जय राधे जय जय माधव दायिते दामोदर राधे वर्धन वेशे हरि निष्कुट वृन्दाविपिनेश राधे वृषभानुदादि नवशशिलेके ललित सखी गुण रमित विशाखे जय राधे जय जय माधव दायिते करुणा भरिते सनक सनातन वर्णित चरिते करुणा कुरुमयि करुणा भरिते सनक सनातन वर्णित चरिते Jaya Radhe, Jaya Jaya Madhava, Daite Jaya Radhe, Jaya Jaya Madhava, Daite Sucharu Vaktra Mandalam Sukarnaratna Kundalam Sucharchitanga Chandanam Namami Nandanandanam Sudirga Netra Pankajam Shiki Shikanda Murdajam Ananga Koti Mohanam Namami Nandanandanam Sunasikagram Sachandadanta Bhaktikam Navam Pudanga Chikanam Namami Nandanandanam Karena Venuranjitam Gati Karendra Ganjitam Dukulapita Shobhanam Namami Nandanandanam Tribanga Deha Sundaram Nakhadyute Sudakaram Amulya Ratna Bhushanam Namami Nandanandanam Sugandhayanga Saravam Uraviraji Kostubam Spurvat Srivatsalanchanam Namami Nandanandanam Vrindavana Sunagaram Vilasano Gavasasam Surendra Garva Mochanam Namami Nandanandanam Vrajangana Sunayakam Sada Sukha Pradayakam Jaganmana Pralopanam Namami Nandanandanam Śrī-Dāmodarāṣṭakam Paterya Shadayanvita Tared Bhavabdim Dustaram Labhetaram Kriyugmakam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Vrindavandite Triloka Shokaharini Prasanna Vaktra Pankaje Nikunja Bhuvilasini Vrajendra Bhanu Nandini Vrajendra Sunu Sangate Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Ashoka Vriksha Vallari Vitana Mandapastite Pravala Pallava Prabharu Nangri Komale Varabhaya Spurat Kare Prabhuta Sampadalaye Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Anangaranga Mangala Prasanga Pangura Bhuvam Savibhramam Sasambhramam Triganta Bana Patanai Nirantaram Vashikrita Pratitinanda Nandane Kada Karishasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Tarit Suvarna Champaka Pradipta Gaura Vigrahe Mukha Prabha Parasta Koti Sharadendu Mandale Vichitra Chitra Sanchara Chakora Shavalochane Kada Karisha Sihamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam Madon Madati Yovane Pramora Mana Mandite Priyanuraga Ranjite Kala Vilasa Pandite ananya dhanya kunja raja kama keliko videkada karisha sihama kripa kataksha bhajanam ashesha hava bhava dhira hirahara bhushite prabhutta shata kumbha kumbha kumbhi kumbha sustani prashasta mandahasa churna purna sokya sagare kada karishasi hama kripa kataksha bhajanam vṛṇāda valla vallari taranga ranga dolate latakralasa lolanila lochana valokane lala lolan milan manogya mugha mohanashite kada karishasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam suvarna malikanchita trireka kambukanthage trisutra mangali guna triratna dipti dipti salola nila kuntala prasuna gocha gumphite kada karishasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam etam bimbalambamana pushpamekhala gune prashasta ratna kinkini kalapa madhyamanjule karindra shunda dandika varoha sovagoruke kada karishasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam aneka mantra naramanjunupura ravaskalat samaja raja hamsa vangshanit vanati gaurave vilola hema vallari vidambi charu chankrame kada karishasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam ananta koti vishnu loka namra parmajarchite himatri japulo maja virincha javara prade apara siddhire digda sapadanguli nakhe kada karishasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam mageshwari kriyeshwari sareshwari sureshwari trivera bharateshwari pramana shashaneshwari rameshwari kshameshwari pramorapkananeshwari vrajeshwari vrajadhipe shiradhike namostute iti mamarbhutam stavam nishamya bhanunandini karotu santatam janam kripa kataksha bhajanam paveta daiva sanchita trirupa karmanashanam paveta da vrajendra suno mandala praveshanam kada karishasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajanam. Namami Shvaram Sachidanandarupam Alasat-kunda Lam Gokule Braja Manam Yashoda Viyolukadadava Manam Paramrishtam Matyantato Drutagopa Namami Shvaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat-kunda Lam Gokule Braja Manam Arudantam Mohornetra Yugmamrijantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satankanetra mohośvasakampa trirekhankakantha stitagraiva damodaram bhakti-bālaṁ o namameshwaram sachidananda-rūpam ola satkundalam gokule brajamana ete trikasvali lavira ananda konde sagosham nimanjantam ayaiḥyapayantam tadiyeshitai gesho bhakterjitatvam puna prematastam shatavritti vande namameshwaram sachidananda-rūpam lasatkundalam gokule brajamana varaṁ deva mokṣaṁ mokṣāvadhiṁ o cānyaṁ vṛṇe o vareśād apīha idaṁ vapur nātha gopāla-bālaṁ sadā me manasy āvirāstāṁ sachidananda-rūpa ola satkundalam gokule brajamana idaṁ te mokṣaṁ bhojam avyakta-nilar vṛttam kunṭalaishnega raktaśca gopya mohushummitam bimbarakta dharame manasy āvirāstāṁ alam lakṣala namameshwaram sachidananda-rūpam lasatkundalam gokule brajamana namadeva Dāmodarāṣṭakam prasiddha prabodhuka jalabdimagna kripa-drishti vrishate dinam patanu agrihanesham amamagyam edakshidesham namameshwaram sachidananda-rūpam lasatkundalam gokule brajamana kuberatmajo pata murtaivayadvat atvayamajito bhakti bhajakrito cha tata prema bhakti sakame prayacha o namokshe graho nesti damodare sachidananda-rūpam lasatkundalam gokule brajamana namastestu dhame spuradipti dhame Tadiyadārāyata Vishvasadhāme Namoradhikāyai Tadiyapriyai O Namoradhikāyai Tadiyapriyai O Namonantalilai Devaya Tu Namoradhikāyai Tadiyapriyai O Namoradhikāyai Tadiyapriyai O Namoradhikāyai Tadiyapriyai Namoradhikāyai Tadiyapriyai Namonantalilai Devaya Tu Namonantalilai Devaya Tu Radha Damodara 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 Radha Damodara Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Radha Damodar Ju Ki Jai Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Shri Param Gurudev Ki Jai Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Saparshad Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Saparshad Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gan Ki Jai Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Vrajmandal Shri Gaurmandal Vrajmandal Kshetra Mandal Dham Ki Jai Shri Abhina Vrindavan Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai Shri Vrajmandal Parikrama Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Shri Kartik Vrat Ki Jai Vrat Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Urjeshwari Shri Vishabhanu Nandini Shrimati Radha Thakurani Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam Ki Jai Shri Satyavrata Muni Ki Jai Shri Krishna Dvaipayan Veda Vyasdev Ki Jai Shri Sanatan Goswami Par Ki Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Alright, so now we will continue with our Dāmodarāṣṭakam reading. We will be reading now the 4th verse. Let me share my screen. I'm just seeing if there's any Oh, and whoever this is, I can't see. For some reason, it doesn't give me the names of anybody watching from the Gaudiya Kirtan Live group on Facebook. But I can't, when it, sometimes because my internet, it just, like, my screen freezes. And so even though I did scroll, it doesn't appear that way on the screen. So that's why it is. That's why that happens, I mean. O varaṁ deva mokṣaṁ na mokṣāvadhiṁ va na cānyaṁ vṛṇe vareśād apīha idaṁ te vapur nātha gopāla-bālaṁ sadā me manasy āvirāstāṁ anyaiḥ. Varaṁ means benedictions. Deva, O supremely effulgent and playful divinity. Mokṣaṁ, emancipation from the sufferings of transient existence, the fourth ultimate goal of human life. Not, mokṣavadhiṁ, the pinnacle of salvation, residence in Śrī Vaikuṇṭha, the abode of extraordinary concentrated happiness. Va, or, not, cha, and, anyaiḥ, other benedictions such as nātha bhakti characterized by śravaṇa and kirtan. vṛṇe, I pray for. I do not pray for other benedictions such as nātha bhakti characterized by śravaṇa and kirtan. Isn't that pretty bold statement, huh? Vareśād, from you, the supreme controller, who can grant any benediction. Apīha, even though. Iha, here in vraj. Idaṁ, this. Te, your. Vapur, beautiful divine form. Nātha, supreme refuge. Gopāla-bālaṁ, a young cowherd boy. Sadā, always. My. Manasy, in the heart. āvirāstāṁ, remain manifest. Kim, of what use do I have for? Anyaiḥ, other benedictions. 1 second, just seeing, I got some. 1 second. Okay. One second, let me just check this. I need some water. O supremely effulgent and playful divinity, I do not ask you for freedom from mortal suffering, the fourth of human goals. Nor do I ask for the ultimate limit of freedom, residence in Vaikuṇṭha, the abode of extraordinary concentrated happiness. Nor do I seek any other benediction from you, even attaining bhakti characterized by śravaṇa and kirtan, etc. Even though, as a supreme benefactor, you can easily grant all benedictions. O Lord of my life, may your beautiful form as Bāla-gopāla, a little cowherd boy, in vraj, always remain visible within my heart. I have no use for any benediction other than this. So now we pray for the mercy of Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad and my Srila Gurudev, who gave us this commentary of Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad, who translated it, giving his Bhava Anubad, that we can one day, we can truly honor these words of his, and that they may become manifest in our heart one day. Jai Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad ki jai. Up until this point, Śrī Satyavrat Muni has been praising Śrī Bhagavan by describing the supremacy of his unique characteristics. Now, in verse 4, beginning with varaṁ, and in verse 5, Śrī Satyavrat Muni begins to pray to obtain his most cherished object. O deva means either O supremely effulgent divinity, or O Lord who always loves to perform certain charming pastimes. Here, vareśād apīha means, even though you can grant any benediction, I do not ask you for freedom from mortal suffering, moksha, the ultimate goal among the 4 goals of human life. Beyond the attainment of ordinary moksha is the attainment of the utmost limit of moksha, residence of your transcendental abode, Śrī Vaikuṇṭha loka. That abode is comprised of unending, concentrated bliss. I do not even ask you for residence in Vaikuṇṭha, nor do I ask for anyaiḥ. The words anyaiḥ, others also, can be understood to mean either the other benediction attained by performing the celebrated 9-fold system of devotional service, nātha bhakti, beginning with the process of śravaṇam, hearing about the personality of Godhead, or simply any other attainment generally considered worth asking for or considered superior by others. However, considering the word iha in this place, the meaning is, because I am in Vrindavan, I do not have the slightest desire to accept all these benedictions. Let's see what the footnote says. Okay, this is a long, very long footnote. I remember reading this before. This is from my Param Gurudev. Let's read it. This is my Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Brigyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. This is his footnote here. At the end of Dig-darśinī-ṭīkā of verse 3, it was said, among the limbs of bhakti which are required for all devotees, I only pray to perform one special limb of bhakti, vandana, or expressing my adoration for Śrī Bhagavan. I do not pray for knowledge of Śrī Bhagavan's opulence or anything else. Now, in this stanza, it has been said that even the above-mentioned limbs of bhakti, such as śravaṇ, kirtan, vandana, and so forth, are also not desirable. The meaning is that from the perspective of graded excellence, the spurti of Śrī Bhagavan's beautiful form within the heart, as revealed only in Vrindavan, is a superior sadā. Previously, Śrī Satyavrat Muni resolved to perform sadhan of Vaidhi bhakti, characterized by śravaṇ and so forth. However, in this stanza, even the above-said Vaidhi sadhan is being discarded, because it is devoid of the intense eagerness to serve Śrī Krishna, which eventually results in a spurti of his beautiful form. Śrī Satyavrat Muni has offered this special prayer through kirtan bhakti, saturated by intense attachment and eagerness to serve, raganuga bhakti, in order to bring about the sadhya of perpetually seeing such spurtis of Śrī Bhagavan's beautiful form within the heart. This is because without the mercy of Śrī Bhagavan, such a spurti will not occur. The word iha is, now we're going back to the text. The word iha is also related to the latter half of the verse. Here, the progressive superiority of the 3 benedictions is self-evident. Wait a second, I just want to know. Okay, so iha refers to in this place, which means in here in Vrindavan. I don't desire any of these things. I'm in Vrindavan. Why would I want any of these other things? But now iha is also related to the later half of the verse, idaṁ te vapur gopāla-bālaṁ. So I think one is talking about him being in Vrindavan, and the other is talking about you in Vrindavan. I only want this form of yours. Let's see. Here, the progressive superiority of the 3 benedictions is self-evident. The Uttarakanda of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita clearly explains the superiority of residence in Vaikuṇṭha loka over moksha. let's read this footnote. This is from my Param Gurudev. Okay, so Uttarakhanda Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita clearly explains the superiority of residence in Vaikuṇṭha Loka over moksha. Verses 114 and 115 of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita's Uttarakhanda are presented herein. Vaikuṇṭam durlabham muktai sandarananda chid atmakam nishkama ye tutar bhakto labhantet sadya evatat. Those who perform bhajan of Bhagavan Sri Krishna devoid of any personal motive, nishkam bhaktas, immediately achieve the abode of Vaikuṇṭha. That abode of Vaikuṇṭha is the embodiment of concentrated happiness, and it is made of transcendental cognizance. In other words, it is the concentrated embodiment of Brahma, absolute reality, and his aspect of transcendental consciousness. That abode of Vaikuṇṭha is rarely achieved even by liberated personalities. The deep meaning here is that those who propound oneness with the Absolute and arrogantly regard themselves as liberated souls can never attain that abode. Tatra Shri Krishna Padabja Shakshat Seva Sukam Sadā Bahudanu Bhavantaste Ramante Dik Kritamritam. In Vaikuṇṭha, the devotees who are free from all hankering, nishkam bhaktas, perpetually experience the variegated happiness of directly serving Shri Krishna's lotus feet. By performing various pastimes with him, they become immersed in an ocean of bliss. The happiness resulting from Sri Bhagavan's service is the concentrated form of supreme bliss. Compared to this, the amrita, the nectar of immortality, or the happiness of liberation, seems extremely insignificant. So let's start this sentence from the beginning. The Uttarakhanda of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita clearly explains the superiority of residence in Vaikuṇṭha Loka over moksha. And the performance of Navada Bhakti, the celebrated ninefold system of devotional service beginning with śravaṇam, is even superior to that. This is also described in the following verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Kāmam bhava savirjana nireshu nastach cheto livadyati nute padayorameta vachaschanas tulasi varyaditeng grishobha puryetate gunakanar yadikarnarandra. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:15-49. Shri Sanat Kumar and the other Kumars prayed, O Lord, if because of the offense we made by cursing your devotees, Jai and Vijay, we have to take birth in an extremely condemned species, or even in hell, no harm. As long as our hearts and minds, like bees, are immersed in relishing the sweetness of serving your lotus feet. Our words are made beautiful by glorifying you, just as tulsi leaves are beautified when they are offered at your feet. And our ears are eternally filled with descriptions of all your transcendental qualities. Then we do not care about where we take our birth. In other words, may we eternally have the fortune of hearing, śravaṇ, and singing kirtan about you. This statement specifically demonstrates that regardless of where one resides as a result of his actions, even if he resides in hell, once he has attained final perfection or prem bhakti, by appropriately performing the limbs of Navada Bhakti such as śravaṇ, he always experiences the fulfillment of residing in Vaikuṇṭha. Shri Krishna may have asked, if you do not want any of these benedictions, then what is it that you want? To this question, the sage replies, O Master, may your Bāla-gopāla form in Vrindavan, which I have just described, always remain manifest within my heart. Although you are present as the Supersoul, the omniscient witness in the cave-like hearts of all beings, kindly remain manifest in my heart in such a way that you seem to be appearing directly in front of me, and in that way reveal to me the beauty of your entire form. As though Shri Krishna is personally addressing his devotee, he speaks thus. Aho, liberation, residence in Vaikuṇṭha, and eligibility to engage in navada bhakti are also exceedingly wonderful. They are exceedingly worthy and rare benedictions. Why not accept them as well? In reply, Śrī Satyavrat Muni says, Kim anyaiḥ, of what use to me are these three boons? In other words, Śrī Satyavrat Muni says, although these attainments are eagerly sought after by others, they are of no use to me. Shri Krishna is the essence of all bliss. If one attains him, then everything has been attained. However, the result of obtaining something as insignificant as liberation instead of one's most cherished form of Shri Krishna is only intense sorrow. It is for this reason that Śrī Satyavrat Muni has implied that all other benedictions are of no use. Now, in the following passages, Srila Sanatana Goswami reveals another meaning of Kim anyaiḥ. Sri Bhagavan asks the sage, you may not want liberation and other boons, but why do you not accept the benediction of seeing me and conversing with me in my opulent four-armed forms like in any of my opulent four-armed forms like Sri Narayan, a privilege greatly cherished by all? In this context, when Śrī Satyavrat Muni replies that he has no use for any other benediction, he means, I will only experience the greatest bliss if your Bāla-gopāla form, the crown jewel of all beauty, remains forever manifest in my heart, and not otherwise. In Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita's Uttarakhanda 286-96, we find the statements of Sri Pipalayan Rishi. Therein, he extensively discusses the glories of beholding Sri Bhagavan within the heart, antar darshan. This is a really important point for refuting this conception of the Babajis. Let's see. Annotation by Srila Bhakti Brigyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. Oops. Verses 286 through 296 of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita's Uttarakhanda are presented herein. Should I skip the Sanskrit? I'll read the Sanskrit. Shri Pipalayanuvacha idam mahatpadam hitva katam anyaiḥ katam va brahmasi drashtum drigbhyam tam parameshwaram. The sons of Rishabdev, the son of Rishabdev, Pipalayan Rishi, said to Gopakumar, why do you want to leave Tapaloka and go elsewhere? The best of exalted yogis, the unadulterated celibates, reside here. And why are you wandering to various places trying to see the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, who is beyond the grasp of the eyes and other senses with your eyes? Why are you trying to see Shri Krishna, who is beyond the grasp of the eyes and other senses, with your eyes? Samadhatsva manasviyam tato drakshasitam sata sarvatra bahirantascha sadakshakshar ivastitam. Fix your mind within meditation, samadhi, and you will naturally see Bhagavan. Although Swayam Bhagavan, the original Supreme Lord, resides everywhere, within and without, by the potency of samadhi, you will always see him as if he is directly present before you. Paramatma Vasudeva Sachirananda Vigraha Nitantam Sodite Chitte Spurate Sha Nachanyata. Vasudeva is Paramatma, the Supersoul, the presiding deity of the heart. He only reveals himself in a heart that has been completely purified by Vishuddha Sattva and nowhere else. In other words, because he is Satchir Ananda Vigraha, the embodiment of pure existence, cognizance, and bliss, he does not manifest before the eyes of other senses. In other words, it is not possible to comprehend him with external senses because he manifests of his own accord and is unlimited. Shri Gopakumar could argue, perceiving Shri Bhagavan in the heart is only meditation. It cannot be considered the same as taking darshan of him with one's eyes. To see him with my eyes, I must leave this Tapaloka and go elsewhere. In response, Sri Pipalayan Rishi speaks the following verse. Tadaning cha manovrittan tarad bhavat susiddhati cetasa kalayat shakshad chakshusha darshanam hare. Furthermore, Direct vision of Sri Hari with one's eyes, darshan, is in fact also accomplished by the mind alone. When Sri Bhagavan reveals himself within someone's heart, their mind becomes completely absorbed in him, and they can think of nothing else. Consequently, they feel that they are perceiving him directly with their eyes. In case someone argues, I agree with this, but it is more pleasurable to see Sri Bhagavan with one's eyes. Then Sri Pipalayan Rishi makes the following assertion. Mano sukhe antar bhavati sarvendriya sukam svata tar vrittishvapi vakchakshu shrutadindriya-vṛttaya. If joy arises in the mind, then it is not only the eyes that are pleased, rather all the senses become pleased. This is because the happiness of all the senses rests in the happiness of the mind. Moreover, the actions of speech, eyes, ears, and other senses rest in the actions of the mind. In other words, unless the mind grasps form, taste, and other sense objects, the senses will fail to independently experience them. Manovritim vina sarvendriyanam vrittayo phala kritapiha kritaivasyad atmanyanulabdita. Whatever. Without the mind's activity, the functions of all the senses are futile. Even if the senses do contact their respective objects of enjoyment, they have no effect. This is because the embodied soul cannot experience anything without the mind's involvement. Therefore, actual darshan of Sri Bhagavan occurs within the heart when its disposition is completely pure. Vishuddha chitta vritti vishesh. Direct darshan of him with the eyes is not real darshan, because he is beyond the perception of the senses. Although this may be so, we hear that Sri Dhruva and Sri Prahlad have seen Sri Bhagavan with their eyes. What was that? In response, Sri Pipalayan Rishi gives the following explanation. Kadachit bhakti vatsalya yati ched drishyatam drisho jnana drishtaiva tachatam abhimana param drisho. It is true that Sri Bhagavan possesses qualities such as bhakta vatsalya, affection for his devotees, and on occasion he may make himself visible to someone's external eyes. But such an incident is occasional and not a standard occurrence or rule. It is really their consciousness that enables this vision, not their physical eyes. This is because the senses, being limited, cannot perceive something unlimited. Seeing Sri Bhagavan with the eyes is of such repute. Seeing Sri Bhagavan with the eyes is of such repute because when the living entity sees Sri Bhagavan within the heart, which has become resplendent with Vishuddha Sattva, supremely pure spiritual existence, he proudly assumes that he has seen Sri Bhagavan with his eyes. In reality, however, he has not. Tasya karunya shaktava drishostvapi bahir drisho tatapi darshanananda swayono jayate hridi. Someone may say that by his mercy potency, karunya shakti, Sri Bhagavan sometimes becomes visible to the living entity's external eyes. Since he possesses all potency, what is not possible for him? Although this may be so, the bliss of that darshan is found only in the heart or the mind. Yeah, because lots of demons had darshan of Krishna, but they didn't really see him. Anantarancha tatraiva vilasan paryavasyasti mana eva mahapatram tatsuka grahanochitam. Even after Sri Bhagavan disappears, the bliss of his darshan continues to play in one's heart, resulting in the experience of many further visions there. Although the eyes have seen the Lord, the vision culminates in the mind. Furthermore, because darshan of Bhagavan is achieved by the mind, which is the only receptacle for experiencing the happiness of that vision, it is of no use to attempt to see him with one's eyes. Someone may reason, the eyes and other external senses are limited, but the mind is also limited. Therefore, it is impossible for the mind to see the absolutely unrestricted form of Śrī Bhagavan. Śrī Pipalayan responds to this conclusion in the following verse. Tat prasado dayadyavat sukham vardeta manasam tavad vardhitamishita na cānyaṁ bahyamindriyam. Although the mind is limited, when it becomes pure, or when one receives the mercy of Śrī Bhagavan, the happiness within the mind caused by his darshan increases more and more, and the mind expands to accommodate the magnitude of that joy. Only the subtle mind can expand like this, because it is not gross like the external senses. In other words, the purified mind is so subtle that it has the ability to become transparent and attain resemblance with the soul. Then the mind can perceive the form of Śrī Bhagavan. It is well known that knowledge of an object only arises when the mind perceives its form. This attribute is not applicable to the other senses because they are external, gross, and confined by material limitations. Someone may further argue, it is agreed that vision of Śrī Bhagavan in the mind is superior to seeing him with the eyes. But the supreme joy of requesting benedictions from him and conversing with him can only come when one sees him with one's eyes. Śrī Pipalayan replies to this that in the following verse. Starting to fall asleep. Okay. Antardhyanena drishtopi shakshadrishta iva prabhu kripa vishesham tanute pramanam tatra padmaja. When the mind becomes absorbed in uninterrupted meditation, and Śrī Bhagavan becomes visual within the heart, that vision is just like direct vision with the eyes. Only then the all-potent Lord becomes pleased and bestows special mercy upon the Jnani Bhaktas in different ways, like granting them boons. The evidence of this is Śrī Bhagavan's behavior toward the first created being, the firstborn Lord Brahma himself. When Lord Brahma desired to create the universe full of living beings, he first became absorbed in meditating on Śrī Bhagavan. When he attained the final stage of meditation, samadhi, the Lord granted him darshan. Beholding him in the ecstasy of his trance, Lord Brahma offered prostrated obeisances. Śrī Bhagavan personally caught hold of his hand and said, "I am pleased with your austerity. Ask for a benediction." When Brahma then requested a boon, he directly heard the Chatushloki, or 4 original verses of Srimad Bhagavatam from Śrī Bhagavan. This incident shows that after beholding Śrī Bhagavan in a state of samadhi, one experiences his most compassionate blessings, like him revealing his form to the devotee, granting benedictions, conversing with the devotee, touching the devotee, and so forth. For this detailed information on this, one may deliberate on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, and Canto 3, Chapter 8. As a long footnote. Oh, Krishna. Oops, I went back too far. There. Okay, so let's just see, what did we read? In Brihad Bhagavatamrita's Uttar-kanda, we find the statements of Śrī Pipalayan Rishi. Therein, he extensively discusses the glories of beholding Śrī Bhagavan within the heart, Antardarshan. In the previous stanzas, the sage has been singing the glories, stuti of his Lord. Yet this stanza is apparently a prayer, a prarthana. However, even this prayer has culminated in glorifying Śrī Bhagavan. The sage's prayer for inner vision of Śrī Bhagavan shows that such vision is the highest goal. This should also be understood while considering the next verse. Editor's footnote. In verse 6, however, Srila Sanatana Goswami cites further examples from his Śrī Brihad Bhagavatamrita to prove that the superiority of darshan within the mind only applies to Jnani Bhaktas. In relation to Shuddha Bhaktas, or Premi Bhaktas, the conclusion is that darshan of Bhagavan with one's spiritually perfected senses is superior to darshan within him. Sorry, darshan within the mind. I need to stand up, guys. 1 second. Let me just... One second. Just moving over here. Thus ends the English rendition of the Dig-darśinī-ṭīkā on the 4th verse by Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam. Okay. Now the Dig-darśinī-vṛtti by my Śrīla Gurudev. Up till now, Śrī Satyavrat Muni has been describing the sweet pastimes of Shri Krishna, and specifically the pastimes characterized by Vatsalya Ras. Consequently, his heart has been melting, and he's becoming fully absorbed in them. Shri Krishna is not especially pleased with the prayers offered by Lord Brahma or the other demigods. On the other hand, if one sings about the pastimes of Shri Krishna's devotees, and especially about the pastimes of the Vrajavasis, then Shri Krishna will not only be pleased, but he'll be even controlled by them. He'll even be controlled by them. Shri Satyavrat Muni then prayed, "O Damodar, your mother has so much affection for you, and above all others, you are by far her favorite. She is the very embodiment of boundless Vatsalya Prem for you. With profound motherly affection, she cares for you and nurtures you, considering you to be her dependent child. Naturally, just as a mother's qualities ordinarily appear in her children, her motherly quality of forgiveness and compassion also appears in you. Kindly forgive my offenses, my sins, my anarthas, and my bad qualities, and just be pleased with me. Kindly just grant me your causeless mercy." That's really beautiful. Saying Krishna's qualities of forgiveness and compassion are coming from his mother. It's really her glories. It's really sweet. It is as though Shri Krishna, being pleased by Shri Satyavrat Muni's prayer, had asked the sage to accept his desired boons. And now, in the beginning of the stanza, the sage says, "Varaṁ deva mokṣaṁ na mokṣāvadhiṁ. I do not want liberation or even the topmost limit of freedom, residence in Vaikuṇṭha loka, nor have I any need for other such benedictions." Shri Satyavrat Muni prays, "O Bhagavan, you are the original Lord of all lords and the source of everything. Therefore, you are capable of granting all benedictions. Nothing is impossible for you. Although liberation is the cherished attainment of one who has realized the temporary nature of worldly existence and has consequently become detached, I have no need for the benediction of attaining liberation." There are 5 kinds of mukti described in the scriptures: Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, Shashti, and Sayujya. Footnote. The 5 kinds of mukti grant, this is editor's footnote, the 5 kinds of mukti grants the following opulences. Salokya grants residence on the same planet as Bhagavan. Samipya grants the constant nearness to him. Sarupya grants a form like his, and Sarshti grants boundless fortune similar to his. The 5th type of liberation, Sayujya, is attained at the exclusion of the other 4, as it grants total cessation of the individual ego by merging into the existence of Bhagavan. The definition of mukti is found in Sankhya, in the Sankhya Shastra, Atyantiki dukkha nivrittir eva mukti. The final cessation of all forms of misery suffered during the endless cycle of birth and death is mukti. Resolving to permanently end their suffering, some people aspire for Sayujya Mukti, merging into the impersonal feature of Brahma. This form of mukti is actually offensive, and it is fully opposed to bhakti. Previously, even the four Kumaras, Śrī Sanak, Śrī Sanandan, and Śrī Sanatan, and Śrī Sanat Kumar, desired this kind of mukti. Editor's footnote. In Srila Sanatana Goswami's Dig-darśinī-ṭīkā, the prayer from Śrīmad Bhagavatam 3.15.49, beginning with Kamam Bhava, is spoken by the four Kumars during their first direct darshan of Lord Narayan at the gates of Vaikuṇṭha. Needless to say, by the time they spoke that prayer, they had long since abandoned their desire for Sayujya Mukti. So previously, even the four Kumaras desired this kind of mukti. However, as Śrī Satyavrat Muni prays for his desired boon, he discards the goal of moksha, Sayujya Mukti, with the words varaṁ deva mokṣaṁ. And with the words na mokṣāvadhiṁ va, he expresses that he does not even want the unending, concentrated happiness of residing in Vaikuṇṭha, the ultimate limit of freedom. We should carefully consider the meanings of mokṣāvadhiṁ. Unlike Sayujya Mukti, the other four kinds of mukti are not entirely unfavorable to bhakti. Those who accept these four kinds of mukti exist within the realm of Vaikuṇṭha in two classifications. In one class, swa-sukha-aishwarya uttara moksha, the desire for one's own happiness and opulence predominates, whereas in the other class, prema seva uttara moksha, one's longing to render loving service to Śrī Bhagavan predominates over all other desires. I've never understood this point, actually. Anyways. Because how can somebody... I believe it. I'm just saying I don't understand it. Because how can somebody in Vaikuṇṭha have a desire for their own happiness and opulence? I guess it's possible in Vaikuṇṭha Loka, but yeah. Anyways, those who long for prem sevottara moksha never desire the inferior swa-sukha-aishwaryam uttara moksha. The example of the four Kumaras illustrates this. When the four Kumaras experienced the fragrance of the tulsi leaves that had been placed upon the lotus feet of Śrī Narayan, they utterly abandoned their previous desires for impersonal liberation. They at once became jnani bhaktas, devotees who have knowledge of the Lord's absolute divinity, and began seeking after prema sevottara moksha. Shuddha bhaktas, however, have one pointed attachment for the loving service of Sri Krishna. They do not even aspire for prem sevottara moksha, wherein some desire for one's own happiness still remains. When Sri Bhagavan offers such one-pointed devotees either of these classes of moksha, they never accept it. Therefore, in Śrīmad Bhagavatam 3.29.13, Sri Bhagavan says, Diyamanam na grinnanti vina mat sevanam jana. A pure devotee never accepts any kind of moksha, even if I personally offer it to him. The unalloyed devotee's only desire is to engage in loving service to Śrī Bhagavan. In the history of Vritrasura narrated in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Vritrasura rejected all varieties of moksha and prayed to be able to render service to the lotus feet of Śrī Bhagavan. Na nakaprishtam na chaparamishtam na sarvabhaumam na rasadhipatyam na yoga siddhir apunar bhavam va samanjasa tvar virahaya kankshe. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 6.11.25. O ocean of all good fortune, apart from serving your lotus feet, I do not wish for anything. I do not wish to obtain the summit of heaven, Dhruvaloka, the Vaikuṇṭha planet situated at the zenith of the material cosmos, nor the highest seat of power within the universe, the seat of Lord Brahma, nor have I any desire for sovereignty over all the earth, nor sovereignty of all the planets down to Rasatal, which are flooding with sense enjoyment. I do not long for mastery over all the yoga cities, nor even the end of repeated birth and death, moksha. In the same way, Śrī Satyavrat Muni is not even asking for a boon related to the utmost limit of moksha, residence in Vaikuṇṭha. Śrī Satyavrat Muni continues, Nacha anyam. Furthermore, I have no desire to obtain any other benediction. By the word anya, other, in this phrase, Śrī Satyavrat Muni implies, I do not even want the result of performing the 9 kinds of Vaidhi Navada Bhakti, hearing about Sri Bhagavan, Śravaṇ, chanting his names, kirtan, remembering him, Vishnu Smaran, serving his lotus feet, Pada Sevanam, worshipping him, Archan, praising him, Vandan, maintaining the attitude of serving him, Dasya, nurturing a friendship with him, Sakya, and submitting one's very life to him, Atma Nivedan. His response astonishes Sri Krishna, who then asks, the ninefold system of devotional service, Navada Bhakti, has been abundantly praised in the scriptures. Yet you do not want to accept even that? What then is your desire? Then Sri Satyavrat Muni utters his prayer. My only desire is that your form as little Bāla-gopāla manifest in my heart forever. That small cowherd boy who is afraid of his mother and who is looking here and there with fearful, suspicious eyes. And the phrase vareśād apīha, vara ishat apīha. The word iha means here, or in this place. Thus, the sage is praying, may your form as a little cowherd boy, which is present here in Vrindavan, appear within my heart. I have no need for any other benediction besides this. Yeah, so that's the second meaning of iha, right? We read there's two meanings of iha. Iha refers either to I'm here in Vrindavan, or it refers to I want to have darshan of you here in Vrindavan as a little cowherd boy. The form of Bāla-gopāla will only appear in one's heart as a result of prem bhakti. Sadhaks who perform śravaṇ, kirtan, and smaran of Sri Krishna do not care if they go to heaven or hell. Their only desire is to engage in cultivating prem bhakti under the guidance of tattva-gya rasik Vaishnavas, Vaishnavas who have realized the absolute truth and who are expert in relishing loving emotions. It is therefore said, Tanamarupa charitari sukirtanano smrityo kramena rasana manasy niyoja tishtan vrajetarανuragi jananukami kalam nayir akilamityupadesha saram. Śrī Upadeshamrita, verse 8. The bhakti sadhaks should perform kirtan and smaran, remembrance of Sri Krishna's name, form, character, and pastimes. Thus, they should gradually engage their tongues and minds, withdrawing them from absorption in sense objects, which cause aversion to Sri Krishna. Residing in Vrajmandal, they should follow in the footsteps of Sri Krishna's associates who have deep attachment for him, and fully utilize every moment in their time. They should utilize fully every moment of their time like this. This is the essence of all teachings. Similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-58, Sri Uddhav says, Eta param tanubrito bhuvi gopavadvo govinda eva nikalatmani ruddha bhava vanchanti arbhavaviyo munayo vayamcha kim brahma janma. The young wives of the Gopas embodied here on the earth, led the topmost lives because they have mahabhav, or full-blown, selfless love for Sri Govinda, the very soul of all. Their pure love is sought after by those sages who fear repeated birth and death, as well as by us. What is the use of being born, even as Lord Brahma, if one does not have any taste for hearing the nectarian descriptions of Sri Hari? Vitrasura also prays that he may gain the association of the Vaishnavas and cultivate prema bhakti under their guidance. Mamotama shloka janeshu sakyam samsara chakre brahmata swakarmibhi tamaya yadmatmaja daragehe shvasakta chittasya nanata bhuyat. Srimad Bhagavatam 6:11-27. O Master of my life, I am not seeking liberation. I am not concerned if I must repeatedly roam about in this vicious circle of birth and death as a result of my actions. However, wherever I go, and whichever species I take birth, please grant me the loving friendship of your dear devotees, for in their association I can cultivate prema bhakti. My Lord, I only pray that I will not have to mingle with those who, bewildered by your illusory potency, are always attached to their bodies, homes, children, families, and so on. Although the position of Navada Bhakti is so elevated, Śrī Satyavrat Muni has no desire for it. Why? Srila Sanatana Goswami reconciles this wonder. He explains that the fruit of one's practice of Navada Bhakti depends upon the nature of one's practice. When the 9 limbs of bhakti are performed according to Vaidhi-marg, the path of strict adherence to scriptural regulations based on fear, they enable the sadhak to attain Vaikuṇṭha. On the other hand, when the same limbs of bhakti are performed in rag-marg, the path of spontaneous love, they enable the sadhak to reach the abode of Vrindavan, where they attain loving service to Sri Krishna. It is important to carefully understand the meaning of rag. Raga is defined as one's attraction to an object. If the soul's inherent capacity to be attracted is directed towards Sri Krishna, if he becomes the exclusive object of that attraction, it is called ragatmika bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has defined ragatmika bhakti in the following verse. Ishte swarasiki raga paramavishtata bhavet tanmayad bhaver bhakti satra ragatmiko dita. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-272. Rag is the unquenchable loving thirst for the object of one's affection that in turn gives rise to spontaneous and intense absorption in that object. Devotion that is performed with such rag is known as ragatmika bhakti. Spontaneous, intense absorption in the object of one's love is referred to as rag, and when Krishna bhakti reaches this state of intense attachment, it is called ragatmika bhakti. Thus, in brief, ragatmika bhakti is the loving thirst for Sri Krishna. The topmost example of ragatmika bhakti is found in the deeply loving emotions that the Vrajavasis feel for Sri Krishna, and devotion that is aimed at attaining this stage of ragatmika bhakti is called raganuga bhakti, bhakti following in the wake of ragatmika bhakti. Since the devotion of one following the Vaidhi-marg is dependent on the dictation of rules and regulations, it is weak. On the other hand, raganuga bhakti is entirely independent, and therefore it is powerful by nature. The topmost example of anurag, incessant deep loving attachment for Sri Krishna, only exists in the hearts of the Vrajavasis. The devotee should meditate on the associates of his beloved Lord Krishna, who have the same mood for which he aspires. Furthermore, he should remain absorbed in hearing, chanting, and remembering the names and pastimes of Sri Krishna in Vraj that are conducive to his own particular mood. Each devotee should reside in Vraj Mandal following the associate who shares his own favored mood in the manner just described. Those who aspire for a mood of friendship with Sri Krishna should follow the footsteps of his companions such as Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam and Subal. Those who desire to have parental affection for him should follow Śrī Nanda and Śrī Yashoda. And those who hanker for conjugal love for Sri Krishna should follow Śrī Lalita, Śrī Vishakha, and so on. Thus, each devotee, according to his own mood, should immerse himself in the pastimes of Sri Krishna and live in Vraj. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has outlined this process of bhajan in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-294-295. Krishna smaranjanam chasya preshtang nirja samihitam tat katharatas chaso kuryad vasam vraje sadā. The devotee should constantly remember Sri Krishna along with the dearmost associates of Sri Krishna, whom he chooses to follow. While permanently living in Vraj, he should become attached to always hearing about them. If one is unable to live in Vraj by body, then one should live in Vraj by mind. Seva sadaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi darbhava lipsuna karya vraja lokanusarata. He who has developed greed for ragatmika bhakti should closely follow in the footsteps of the particular associates in Vraj whose moods he aspires for. Under their guidance, he should engage in service both in his external form as a sadhak and internally with his perfected spiritual body. If the sadhak longs to attain the fully blossomed, mature state of prema, he should take to heart the instruction of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Yaricheravasam vrajabhuvi saragam pratijanur yuvadandang tached paricharitunaradabilashe sarupam shirupam saganamihatasya grajamapi sputam premna nityam smaranamatadatvam shinumana. Śrī Manashiksha, verse 3. If you wish to live in the land of Vraj birth after birth, and if you crave the chance to perform direct service to the eternally youthful divine couple in their parakiya affairs full of rag, then, my dear mind, listen to me. Realize deep love for Śrī Swarup Damodar, Śrī Rupa Goswami, his elder brother Śrī Sanatana Goswami, and all their associates. Remember them for all eternity, and offer your obeisance to them in adoration. My dear mind, listen to me. It is thus clear that attaining Vraj Bhakti is only possible by being under the guidance of the Vrajavasis. This is the opinion of the Acharyas. Someone who wants Vraj Bhakti will hear and chant according to his own specific mood. The following mantra, for example, enables devotees of all moods to relish the names especially dear to them. According to their specific ras, devotees will cherish one name in particular within this mantra. Shri Krishna Gopāla Hare Mukunda Govinda He Nanda Kishora Krishna Shri Yashoda Tanaya Prasida Shri Bāla-gopāla Radhikesha. Shri Brihad Bhagavatamrita 247. Shri Krishna Gopal Hari Mukunda Govinda, O youthful son of Nanda, O darling son of Shri Yashoda, be pleased with me, O life of the gopis, O master of Shri Radhika. So one should engage in śravaṇam and kirtanam, but that śravaṇam and kirtanam should be of the names, forms, qualities of Shri Krishna. It should be of the names, qualities, and forms of Shri Krishna that are in relation to his pastimes in Vraj, and it should be performed while under the guidance of Rupanuga Vaishnavas, followers of Shri Rupa Goswami. Bāla-gopāla, Yashoda's darling son in Vraj, can only be attained by this process. He can never be attained by performing the limbs of Vaidhi Bhakti. Sri Satyavrat Muni rejects the results of Vaidhi Bhakti. When the form of Bāla-gopāla manifests in one's heart, what else is there to attain? If one has achieved the abode of Vrindavan and the associates of exalted Rasik Vaishnavas, the residents of Vraj, one's performance of Shravan and Kirtan in such association will naturally result in the highest attainment, and all of one's cherished desires will be fulfilled. Srila Haridas Thakur chanted 300,000 holy names every day. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself awarded him the title Nam Acharya, the most exemplary teacher of chanting the holy name. Although Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, and Śrī Das Goswami also performed bhajan, it is not written anywhere that they regularly chanted this many holy names. Srila Haridas Thakur's chanting and the chanting of the Goswamis each has their own unique speciality. In a similar sense, the descriptions of the love exhibited by Lakshmi Devi and the love exhibited by Srimati Radhika, by Srivas Pandit, the crown jewel of devotees, and Mahaprabhu's intimate associate, and by Śrī Swarup Damodar, respectively. Okay, you got that. Srivas Pandit's love for Lakshmi Devi and Swarup Damodar's love for Srimati Radhika each have their own unique specialities. At the time of the Ratha Yatra festival, Srivas Pandit tried to establish the glories of Lakshmi Devi's love for the Lord, but in response, Śrī Swarup Damodar established the supremacy of the love of his own Swamini, Srimati Radhika. It is also seen that when Pradyumna Mishra came to Jagannath Puri, Sriman Mahaprabhu sent him to hear Krishna Katha from Sri Rai Ramananda, not from Srila Haridas Thakur,
even though he was present in Puri at the time. Srila Haridas Thakur is a combined form of Sri Brahma and Sri Prahlad, and his chanting of the holy name is absolutely pure. However, in any consideration, the particular moods or bhavs of the Vaishnavas are always the main factor in determining their exalted positions. Everything depends on mood. Sri Prahlad Maharaj is a Jnani Bhakta and can never ascend beyond Vaikuṇṭha. Although those with a thirst for Vraj Bhakti offer their deepest respects to the bhajan performed by Srila Haridas Thakur, they always choose to follow Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. These topmost or Sikh Vrajavasi Goswamis always remained absorbed in Vrajabhav, and, in a mood of intense separation, they bathed in the nectarian ocean of Sri Krishna's Vraj pastimes, day and night. Our sole aim is to perform bhajan under their guidance. The following statement has been heard directly from the mouths of some bygone worshipful Vaishnavas. Bahiranga loya kore nama sankirtan, antaranga loya kore prema asvadan. In public, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would perform Nam Sankirtan, and privately, with his most intimate internal associates, he would relish Vraja Prem. In the Gambhira, Shriman Mahaprabhu would relish Vrajaras exclusively with Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam and Śrī Rai Ramananda. These two most intimate associates of his would recite verses and songs according to his internal moods. Ai dina dayardra nātha hai, mathura nātha kadavalo kyase, hridayam taraloka kataram, daita brahma brahmyati kim karam myaham. Srila Madhavendra Puri quoted from Sri Padyavali 334. O Master, your heart always melts because of your compassion for the destitute. O Lord of Mathura, when will I see you again? O beloved Lord of my life, because I am hankering so fervently to see you, my heart has become intensely restless. What shall I do now? He deva, he daita, he bhuvanayaka bandhu, he Krishna, he chapala, he kurunayaka sindhu, he nātha, he ramana, he nayana birama, ha ha kadano bhavitasi padam drishor me. Shri Krishna Karnamrita 40. O my worshipful Lord, O dearest one, you are the only friend of the entire universe. O Krishna, O restless one, you alone are the ocean of mercy. O my master, O my lover, O charmer of my eyes, alas, alas, when will I behold your lotus feet? Only Śrī Rai Ramananda and Śrī Damodar could understand the deep meanings of these verses, and only they could console Mahaprabhu when he was overwhelmed by the sharp pangs of his intense mood of separation from Krishna. In his commentary, Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad has certainly indicated the great importance and speciality of the moods of Raganuga Bhakti over those of Vaidhi Bhakti. The Rupanuga sadhaks should remember that our Goswamis are all Radha Pakshiya, those who identify themselves as being part of Sri Radha's intimate group. They are only pleased when Sri Krishna becomes so absorbed in thinking about Sri Vrishabhanunandini Sri Radha that his darkish complexion becomes golden like hers. Radha chinta niveshena yasya kantir vilopita Shri Krishna charanam bande Radha lingita vigraham. Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Tatvashtakam, verse 3. When Srimati Radhika was in Man, Shri Krishna, in the mood of intense separation from her, became so completely immersed in thinking about her that his own darkish complexion became golden like hers. I adore the lotus feet of that most glorious form of Shri Krishna. The sadhak should develop an intimate relationship with his guru. He should have such profound affection for his guru's external sadak form, as well as for his internal siddha, his internal perfected form. He should become so attached, he should have such profound affection for those two forms that he becomes intensely attached to him. His attachment should be similar to the natural worldly attachment one ordinarily has for well-wishing relatives or close friends. This type of natural relationship with one's guru is called lokik sad bandhuvat sambandha. The sadhak should accept that it is his guru alone who can fulfill all his most cherished spiritual desires. Wow, this is so important. Oh man, I want to save this. Anyways, I'll do that later. That is the only way he can enter into Rupanuga Bhajan. There is no other way. There's a footnote here. Editor's footnote. Rupanuga Vaishnavas are those who follow in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. The internal devotional service they perform in accordance with Srila Rupa Goswami's teachings is called Rupanuga Bhajan. Sriman Mahaprabhu instructs sadhaks who are inclined towards this high class of bhajan. Trnarapi suni chena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadā hari. Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam, verse 3. In every respect, the sadhak should see himself more lowly and helpless than the most insignificant, trampled blade of grass, and, becoming even more tolerant than a tree, expecting no honor for himself, he should give due respect to all. In this way, the sadhak should always perform Harinam Sankirtan. During his pastimes in Dwarka, Sri Krishna himself exemplified this instruction of Sri Gaur Hari. In one incident in particular, his conduct exemplifies this instruction. That incident goes like this. Once Durvasa Rishi arrived in Dwarka. Durvasa literally means he who subsists solely on the juice of durva grass. At that time, Sri Krishna was sitting in his palace. As soon as Durvasa Rishi arrived before Sri Krishna, he exclaimed, "I am very hungry. Make arrangements to feed me." However, the moment his meal was ready, he went away. At midnight, he suddenly returned and asked for his meal, which was then served to him. When he had eaten only a little of it, he turned to Sri Krishna and said, "Smear this half-eaten sweet rice on your body." Silently, Sri Krishna smeared the half-eaten sweet rice all over his entire body. He smeared it everywhere except on the soles of his feet. The residents of Dwarka looked on infuriated, but they could not say a word. "I want to ride around in a chariot pulled by Rukmini," said Durvasa Rishi. After Sri Krishna made the arrangement for this, Durvasa Rishi demanded that Sri Krishna become the charioteer. Sri Rukmini dragged the chariot along until, on the verge of fainting, she fell to the ground. Upon seeing this, the residents of Dwarka were unable to tolerate any more, so Durvasa abruptly jumped from the chariot and fled. Sri Krishna began searching for him and calling out his name. Durvasa Rishi again appeared. "O Dwarkadish," he said, "even among the demigods, I have never seen anyone so self-composed and tolerant. Surely you are the Lord and benefactor of the Brahmins, Brahmanya Dev. I have enacted this pastime just to establish your honor throughout the three worlds. O Sri Krishna, on my order, you smeared my half-eaten sweet rice all over your body, everywhere except for the soles of your feet. Your whole body has now become as strong as a thunderbolt, but the soles of your feet are weak and susceptible to being wounded." "O Rukmini Devi," he continued, "I am very pleased with you. Seeing your devotion for the Supreme Lord and your extreme tolerance, I am compelled to bless you." Durvasa Rishi then blessed her, saying, "You will be the most exalted of all the chaste ladies in the world, and you will have everlasting fortune. Doesn't that already go? That she was already the most exalted of all chaste ladies of the world and has anyways. Sorry. This pastime teaches the sadak, the importance of tolerance and patience. Even the slightest mistake in one's dealings can result in an offense to the Vaishnavas and thus cause bhakti to disappear forever. Whoa, let me read that one more time. Even the slightest mistake in one's dealings can result in an offense to the Vaishnavas and thus cause bhakti to disappear forever. Leaving aside all other benedictions, Sri Satyavrat Muni is praying that Sri Krishna's Bāla-gopāla form remain manifest within his heart forever. He only wants the form of Śrī Dāmodar to appear there. Thus ends the Dig-darśinī-vṛtti on the 4th verse. Wow. Okay. One second, let me just sit back down. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oops. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara.
Sachinanda Jaya Gora Hare Sachinanda Jaya Gora Hare Jaya Sachinanda Jaya Gora Hare Sachinanda Jaya Gora Hare Jaya Gurudeva 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 Jaya Gurudeva 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 Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtar Ashatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shila Guru Deva Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtar Ashatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtar Ashatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtar Ashatashmad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtar Ashatashmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Shila Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shad Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanantari Shri Gaur Parshad vṛṇe Ki Jai Namachai Shri āvirāstāṁ Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta vṛṇe Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Ki Jai Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam Ki Jai Śrī Dāmodarāṣṭakam Ki Jai Shri Urja Vrat Ki Jai Urjeshwari Shri Vrishabhanunandini Shri Mati Radha Thakurani Ki Jai Shri Vrajmana Parikrama Ki Jai Shri Satyavrat Muni Ki Jai Shri Sanatan Gosai Pad Ki Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Vo Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashajai Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhyai Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. So see you tomorrow for verse 5. Tomorrow's reading is going to be short. It's under I think it's under 4,000 words. Today was over 7,000 words, and tomorrow is under 4,000 words. So, all right. Jai Shri Radhe, Haribo. Oh, Anjali Didi. Cool. Haribo, Dandavat pranams.